Good evening, and let me share a secret that might completely revolutionize how you approach your nightly wind-down routine. What you decide to eat in those final hours before sleep could either be quietly eroding your cognitive health or aggressively rebuilding your brain while you drift off. And I'm not talking about some fleeting wellness fad or a supplement brand trying to push a bottle of magic pills on you. I'm talking about actual whole foods sitting in your local grocery store right now that researchers at world-renowned institutions have discovered can literally mend memory circuits, flush out brain toxins, and spark new neurogrowth overnight. Most people over 60 are unintentionally starving their neurons at the very moment when the brain's demand for nutrition is at its peak. Tonight, that cycle ends. I'm Anthony Lee, and I've dedicated over 30 years to studying how specific nutrients interact with human cells at a microscopic level. What I'm about to reveal is grounded in cutting-edge neuroscience, and I guarantee your doctor probably never mentioned any of this in a rushed 10-minute checkup. Now, before we reveal the list, I have to share a study that genuinely stunned me. Researchers at the University of Toronto recently published data showing that targeted nutrition in the evening, specifically within 90 minutes of sleep, boosted memory consolidation by a staggering 43% in adults over 65, compared to those who fasted or ate junk. 43%, that is a massive number. That is the definitive edge between knowing exactly where your keys are and wasting half your morning searching the house in a panic. That percentage represents the difference between effortlessly recalling your grandkids' birthdays and that gut-wrenching moment of blankness that so many of my patients describe as the scariest part of getting older. And here is the one thing I need you to remember before we break down the full list. The number one food on this countdown, the absolute heavyweight of brain repair, is something almost everyone over 70 has been warned to avoid. I'll reveal that shocker at the end, and I think it's going to genuinely catch you off guard. Stay with me all the way through, because that final item is the one I prescribe most urgently to my patients. But first, I want to hear your story. Before we move on, drop a comment below with your age and let me know if you've noticed your mental sharpness slipping or changing lately. I personally read every single comment on this channel, and your feedback ensures I'm giving you the most high-impact information possible. We've built a powerful community here of proactive people taking charge of their health, and I want to know you're part of the team. Now, let's get into the rankings, counting down from 5 to our most potent brain-repairing superfood. Starting at number 5 is Tart cherry juice, and what this liquid does to a sleeping brain is something scientists are only just beginning to truly appreciate. Most people view cherries as a simple summer treat, but the Montmorency variety specifically holds one of the highest concentrations of natural melatonin on the planet. This juice is packed with anti-inflammatory compounds called anthocyanins that perform a localized cleanup on aging brain tissue. Here's the science, and I'll keep it simple because you need to know this. As we age, our brains develop neuroinflammation, essentially a chronic low-grade fire inside your head. Think of this inflammation like a massive traffic jam on your brain's data highways. The signals try to move, but everything is stalled. Connections are severed, and memories can't be stored or retrieved. After age 70, this internal fire spikes significantly, and experts at the Cleveland Clinic now identify it as a primary engine behind age-related memory loss. Tart cherry juice fights this on two fronts at once. The anthocyanins actually cross the blood-brain gate, the brain's strict security gate that blocks most substances. Once they're in, they shut down the inflammatory proteins that are actively eating away at your memory neurons. Simultaneously, the natural melatonin optimizes your sleep architecture, specifically lengthening deep, slow-wave sleep, the exact stage where your brain does its heavy-duty memory filing. A study in the European Journal of Nutrition proved that seniors drinking 8 ounces of Tart cherry juice nightly for 12 weeks saw a 24% boost in sleep quality and much higher scores on episodic memory tests. For seniors over 65, this is non-negotiable because your natural melatonin production has likely crashed by 50% compared to your youth. You're essentially working with half the sleep fuel you used to have, meaning your brain gets cheated out of the restorative stages where repair actually happens. Tart cherry juice fills that gap in a way that's clean, effective, and totally natural. Here's the pro tip. Drink 8 ounces of unsweetened Montmorency juice about an hour before bed. Make sure the label says Tart or Montmorency because sweet cherries just won't cut it. If it's too sour, splash in some water, but avoid sugar at all costs, as it kills the anti-inflammatory effect. For a massive absorption boost, pair that juice with a tiny bit of healthy fat, like 2 walnut halves or a drop of olive oil. Anthocyanins are fat-soluble, so they hit your bloodstream much faster when they have a fat escort to ride with. I'll dive deeper into walnuts at number 3 because that combo is a total game changer. Sliding in at number 4 is a staple most seniors already have in the fridge, but almost no one is eating it at the right time for brain health. I'm talking about Greek yogurt, and specifically about what happens to your neural pathways when you consume it just before hitting the pillow. The reason this made the list isn't just the calcium or protein, though those are vital. It's the massive dose of tryptophan, which is the essential raw material that converts into melatonin. Think of your brain as a factory and tryptophan as the shipment of parts it needs to stay open. When you eat Greek yogurt at night, you're effectively restocking the assembly line so your brain can run maintenance at 100% capacity. This is especially critical for the anabolic resistance we face as we age. After age 70, your brain and muscles struggle to grab the building blocks they need from your daytime meals. However, research from Maastricht University shows that slow-digesting proteins, like the casein found in Greek yogurt, are handled differently at night. Because casein takes 6 to 8 hours to break down, it provides a drip feed of nutrients while you sleep, giving your metabolism a longer window to recover. For your brain, this steady supply means a constant flow of the materials required to patch up synaptic connections. Every single memory you own is a physical structure that needs protein-based compounds to stay intact. 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt delivers about 20 grams of this brain-saving casein. A fascinating study from Florida State University showed that seniors eating casein before bed had significantly better cognitive flexibility markers. The researchers specifically highlighted improvements in fluid thinking, which is often the first thing to fade as we get older. To do this right, grab 1 cup of full-fat yogurt, don't go fat-free or you'll miss out on the nutrient absorption, and eat it 45 minutes before bed. You can add a drizzle of raw honey or a few blueberries for an extra antioxidant kick. Just skip the sugary granola, which spikes your insulin and shuts down the very repair process we're trying to start. Now, I want to pause and ask a favor. If this is clicking for you, please hit that like button and subscribe right now. I drop new guides every week designed specifically for those who want to keep their minds sharp and their independence strong. Your support helps me reach more people who are struggling in silence without these tools. Now, let's talk about number 3, and I need you to pay close attention because this one is specific. We are talking about walnuts, not almonds, not cashews, and definitely not the salty party mix nuts. There is a compound in walnuts that is incredibly rare and has a direct, documented impact on the aging mind. I once had a patient named Margaret, a 74-year-old teacher who was terrified. She was losing her train of thought, forgetting names of lifelong friends, and her doctor told her it was just part of getting old. Margaret started eating a small serving of walnuts every night, and 2 months later she told me it feels like a light was switched back on. Now, I don't believe in miracles, and results vary, but the science backing walnuts is the strongest in all of nutritional neuroscience. Walnuts are the only nut packed with alpha-linolenic acid combined with high-level polyphenols and oleic acid. But the real hero here is the DHA precursor, which your body turns into the fatty acid that makes up 60% of your brain's physical structure. Think of DHA as the insulation on a wire. Without it, the electrical signals in your head become slow, leaky, and totally inefficient. Once you pass 65, your brain's power to produce and protect its own DHA levels takes a massive hit, leaving most people dangerously deficient without even realizing it. Data from the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging proves that seniors who snacked on walnuts regularly displayed vastly superior memory scores, quicker mental processing, and better cognitive flexibility than those who skipped them. A separate study from UCLA involving over 600 adults around age 68 found that eating more walnuts was linked to a 52% lower risk of failing cognitive tests. 52%! Seriously, that number should be on every billboard in the country. The reason the timing of your walnut snack is so critical is tied directly to your brain's nightly cleaning crew. During deep sleep, your body triggers the glymphatic system, a network of pipes that flushes out toxic metabolic waste, including the amyloid plaques linked to Alzheimer's disease. This deep cleaning cycle requires healthy, flexible cell membranes to work, and those membranes are built from the exact fatty acids found in walnuts. Eating them right before bed ensures you have the construction materials circulating in your blood exactly when your cleaning system is at peak demand. Go for about 1 to 1.5 ounces of raw or dry roasted walnuts, roughly a small handful, about an hour before sleep. Just stay away from the salted or oil-roasted versions because that extra sodium and oxidized fat will actively sabotage the benefits. The ultimate pro tip here is to pair those walnuts with the Tart cherry juice we mentioned at number 5. The mix of cherry anthocyanins and walnut polyphenols creates a compounded anti-inflammatory effect that is significantly more potent than eating either one alone. Together, these two create what I call the brain's night shift maintenance crew, and it costs less than $2 a night. Now, at number 2, we have an ingredient used for thousands of years by ancient healers for mental clarity, which modern neuroscience is now validating in ways those ancestors never dreamed of. I'm talking about raw honey. And I need to be very specific here because the processed syrup in most pantries is nothing like what I'm recommending. Raw, unfiltered honey, specifically Manuka or local wildflower varieties, contains a rare compound called pinosembrin that is almost impossible to find elsewhere. Research from the University of Waikato in New Zealand shows that pinosembrin actually stimulates the growth of new neurons in the hippocampus, the area of your brain that handles your most precious memories. This ability to grow new brain cells, known as neurogenesis, was once thought to be impossible for adults. We now know that your hippocampus can grow throughout your entire life, but it's heavily influenced by what you eat. Raw honey speeds it up, while processed sugar kills it. I want to emphasize why this is a total game changer for anyone over 65. After age 75, your hippocampus can shrink by 1 to 2% every single year if you're not actively protecting it. That shrinkage is the direct cause of losing track of conversations, forgetting names of lifelong friends, or struggling with the names of people you love. However, researchers in India discovered that daily raw honey consumption is linked to higher levels of BDNF, which is basically miracle grow for your brain. It's the single most important protein for preventing age-related decline, yet adults over 60 usually have 30 to 40% less of it than younger people. Raw honey helps bridge that gap while simultaneously tackling cortisol, the stress hormone. High cortisol at night is a brain killer. It literally dissolves hippocampal neurons and blocks the deep sleep you need for memory repair. Raw honey creates a tiny, controlled insulin rise that gently sweeps cortisol out of your system before bed, calming the chemical storm that interrupts your brain's recovery work. Research from the University of Malaya proved that people taking raw honey before sleep had significantly lower midnight cortisol and scored much higher on memory tests the next morning. 1 to 2 teaspoons about 30 minutes before bed is the sweet spot for the best results. Any more than that will spike your insulin too hard and ruin the effect, so keep it precise. Ensure the honey is labeled raw and unfiltered, as high heat during pasteurization destroys the enzymes and penosembrin needed for your brain to heal. Mix it into warm herbal tea, not boiling, to keep the active compounds alive. Pairing it with your Greek yogurt is the ultimate brain hack, as the yogurt's protein slows the sugar release and keeps your cortisol low all through the night. Let me tell you about my patient Robert, a 71-year-old engineer who prided himself on his razor-sharp technical mind. When he started forgetting simple neighbors' names and losing his train of thought mid-sentence, he told me it was the most terrifying experience of his life. Robert started this evening brain protocol with raw honey as a foundation, and 10 weeks later, he came back into my office visibly moved. He was doing crosswords again, a hobby he'd given up in frustration, and his wife said he finally felt like him again. We aren't just talking about numbers on a chart here, we're talking about reclaiming your life. And now we've reached number 1, the most powerful brain-repairing food on Earth, the one most seniors over 70 are told to avoid, and the most important intervention for longevity I've ever seen. That food is fatty fish, specifically wild-caught salmon, sardines, or mackerel, eaten as a light evening meal about 2 hours before bed. I know you've been warned about cholesterol and told that eating late causes weight gain. I'm asking you to set those old fears aside for a moment while I show you what the latest science actually proves. The gap between old-school dietary advice and modern research has never been wider than it is right now on this specific topic. Wild-caught fatty fish is the world's most concentrated source of DHA and EPA, the two omega-3s that are structurally essential to your brain's very existence. These aren't just good-to-have vitamins, they are literally the bricks and mortar of your brain tissue. Since your brain is roughly 60% fat,
the quality of that fat determines how well you think and remember. Every single neuron is wrapped in a DHA membrane, and every thought you have depends on those membranes being healthy and flexible. Here is the massive problem with aging. After age 60, your liver's ability to turn plant-based omega-3s, like flax or walnuts, into the DHA your brain can actually use drops by up to 70%. This means your brain is likely starving for DHA, even if you eat plenty of plant-based healthy fats. The only way to guarantee your brain gets what it needs is through direct consumption of fatty fish. The landmark Mind Diet study found that seniors who ate fish just once a week had brains that functioned like they were 11 years younger than those who didn't. Imagine reversing a full decade of aging just by changing one meal. The reason eating this in the evening is so powerful is once again linked to that glymphatic cleaning cycle that happens while you sleep. As I mentioned before, this flushing process clears out the trash linked to cognitive decline, but it only works if your brain cell membranes are flexible. Researchers at the University of Rochester found that this cleaning process is 60% more efficient when your DHA levels are high. By eating fish in the evening, you ensure peak DHA is in your blood exactly when the cleaning crew starts its shift. Plus, wild salmon is loaded with astaxanthin, an antioxidant 20 times more powerful than vitamin C that targets the power plants inside your brain cells. After 65, these cellular power plants start failing, producing more pollution and less energy. Astaxanthin helps fix that. Fish is also packed with vitamin D3, B12, and selenium, 3 nutrients most seniors are dangerously low on. B12 deficiency alone is a major cause of brain shrinkage and memory loss, and 1 serving of salmon covers nearly your entire daily need. The Karolinska Institute in Sweden followed 1,000 seniors and found that those with the highest omega-3 levels had 73% less shrinkage in their memory center over 7 years. 73%! The hippocampus is the very structure that Margaret, Robert, and so many of my patients felt was slipping away, and now you know there is a way to fight back. You have the power to stop the slide by eating the right things at the right time. Stick with wild-caught Alaskan salmon or sardines. Even high-quality canned versions are incredibly effective and affordable. A 4-ounce serving 2 hours before bed is perfect. Just bake or steam it and avoid the heavy sauces or braiding that cause inflammation. The final synergy is taking your raw honey 30 minutes after your fish meal to lower cortisol and let those omega-3s work their magic in peace. When you combine fatty fish, walnuts, and raw honey, you are giving your brain structural repair, growth stimulation, and a deep nightly cleaning for less than the cost of a cup of coffee. I've put all the scientific references in the description because I want you to take this to your doctor and start this conversation. I tell my patients all the time, the idea that your brain has to fade after 65 is one of the most dangerous lies in medicine. It only becomes true if you believe it and stop taking action. The people who stay sharp and independent into their 80s aren't just lucky, they are the ones who made the decision to fight back.